This isn't just like, let them go figure it out. It does take, us to also be part of that.
As you know, it's been a crazy few months in Hollywood. A lot of victims have come forward and a lot of people have lost their jobs. What was your initial reaction to everything?
Apparently, everyone already knew in Hollywood, and I was just more shocked that this didn't happen earlier.
It's a little sad that it took so long for something to happen.
I'm not surprised.
Let them all burn.
At last, bitch! Our day has come!
The gag is Hollywood has been doing this for years.
The obvious thing is it's good to know that we're denormalizing predation, that it's not gonna be safe out there to be a garbage person anymore.
Was there anything that came out that surprised you?
I was a little taken aback by the Matt Lauer stuff because I grew up watching Katie Couric and Matt Lauer every morning before school, every morning without fail. I was just disappointed in him.
I'm surprised that anyone cared about gay victims and men victims. This is the first, just to get real, it's harder to even come forward when you're a man or a boy.
I think that what really creeped me out was the one with the kids, younger kid stars, when they were getting preyed on by the producers and stuff like that.
Maybe I'm just I've been too naive, but I just was shocked that it's that hard to be a professional here.
The #MeToo movement started by Tarana Burke. I think it's really important to call her out by name. Not enough people talk about her as the founder.
Different women were finally sharing their story. It happens to your own close group of friends, to your coworkers, and I think it was to raise that awareness that this is happening just like in the cubicle next to you. The
sexual harassment thing with me and being a part of that whole situation and not speaking up about it until somebody else does it. And it's oh girl, me too. And it brings more power to the voice of what is going on. It makes you feel like you're a part of something. And I think that, especially in today's age of social media, that's what it should be easier.
I love the Me Too movement, but I think it's important to realize that we can't just say things, we need to act. So again, we need a system in place where if something happens to you, you can go to someone.
And the Time's Up movement is a movement that is allowing money to be raised for people outside of entertainment.
Raised $16.5 million to start a legal defense fund for anyone who is facing sexual discrimination, harassment, or assault. It's explicit that it's protecting men and women, and I would imagine non-binary people like myself.
So to me, the time's up, and the idea that the time is up on this, beautiful idea. Obviously, things like this don't change overnight, and that the work begins now, and where does it show up in your life? How do you stop it when, how do you speak up for people you see who are not able to speak up for themselves? How do you call out your friends and comrades who are being predatory unconsciously?
What role do you think men play in these movements?
I've been actually thinking about it after watching Oprah's speech at the Golden Globes, and she also mentioned phenomenal men. And I think that was really important because this isn't just women's fights. This isn't just let them go figure it out. It does take, us to also be part of that and us to believe and listen where we can.
I think some people look at this as if it's a men versus women issue, but I think it's just humans versus a corrupt, outdated system.
Yeah, those in power versus those who are powerless.
Yeah, and
that's what it is.
It's less about sex and more about power.
It's really hard for me to answer that without getting emotional. Being a gay black male in America, it's really hard to answer that question because I identify with so many women out there that has been through things that I can relate to. I understand wholeheartedly what these women are going through.
I think it's really important, specifically for men, to understand that no matter how hard you might try, you can never completely understand what it's like to be a woman and to go through that experience.
I just ask that men listen, observe, help change.
I was a little disappointed in the Golden Globe winners that were men, and that nobody really mentioned the movement. They were basically saying, it's not our right to say something, and I'm like, it is completely your right to say something. You might not have to share your story, but you can back up all these stories that you've heard and at least acknowledge it. And you have this huge major platform winning this awesome award. Take the time to say something about it. Don't just be wearing a black tux and a pin.
I'm a white male who's, straight and grew up Christian. For me, it's a really good opportunity to reflect upon things I've done like ways I might unconsciously be creepy. I feel like what it's been like is like when you, sometimes there'll be a movie you loved from like when you were a kid and you recommend it, be like, this movie's so good, let's watch it. You go back and watch it and you're like, oh my God, there's like jokes that are like, you know, homophobic jokes or like weird, and you're like, oh my God, that you just never noticed.
So true.
I think that there's an education process that has to happen to like a lot of these oblivious, you know, individuals, or we've been living with it as like so normal for so long that they're like, oh, I can talk, oh, I should say something, and so something that seems that obvious is honestly they're probably just ignorant to that, and they just actually don't know. They might not have been doing it consciously, maliciously, but that just shows you how ingrained it already is.
Okay, we could switch gears a little. I have some not great statistics to have you guys kind of guess the answers for. Out of every 1,000 rapes, how many perpetrators do you think will walk free?
990, something ridiculous. Like
In the 90s%, maybe.
994. How many do you think are reported to police?
5%.
So it's 310 out of 1,000 are reported.
And you have to keep in mind, in some states, they only view rape as P in V. There's probably a higher number of people who are sexually assaulted or sexually harassed who will definitely not report because they don't have any legal protections there.
Of those 310, how many do you think lead to arrest?
50?
57 lead to arrest, but arrest does not mean incarceration. So
That's what I'm
from
saying.
that original 1,000, how many do you think end up in jail?
18.
2.
6.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Nearly this percentage of working women in the US have said that they've experienced harassment in the workplace.
It's got to be at least half, if not more.
I personally, like every woman in my life has at least one story where something like that happened to her.
Nearly half. What do you think is something our generation can do to inspire permanent change for the future?
It comes down to education, I feel like, where you have to teach your children about equality first. You can't let them grow up thinking that, you know, one gender or one color is better than another.
Stop using these changes as hashtags. Stop forgetting the change that you want so bad and then you cry about it a couple months later. That's what I want from all of this. If you're watching this video, don't forget this video. Don't forget this change. Don't forget what you heard today from all these men on this couch. Don't forget that.
One of the best things about this generation, and also one of the worst things, is how much exposure there is in terms of social media.
Worst, yeah, for sure.
And I think with all this exposure, I think it truly needs to be positive things.
Like my Queen Oprah said, there's a new horizon, there's a new dawn. I am waiting for all of you to go and take the world because you deserve it.
I will fight for you, I will stand with you, and I will always support you.
And boys, you're gonna be fine making space, I promise. There's enough space for everybody at the table.
I firmly believe from a variety of examples in my life and my mom, even my ex-girlfriends, that women are stronger than men in a variety of ways.
But understand, you may have imperfect allies. Like, there will be people who made mistakes who wish to be different. And unless you just want to wait for their life to run out and for them to die, you need to be able to forgive them and bring them onto your side and allow people to help be different.
Be nice, love one each other, and try to have compassion for one another.
I like you.
There's this weird backlash where she said that thing and everyone's like, Oprah for president. And all these people be like, how about we don't have a celebrity for president? Like, yeah, let's try Oprah. Oprah's like, believes in love and light. I mean, you know, get good advisors around her. We don't need like Dr. Phil in the cabinet or something like that. You know, she's made some mistakes along the way. But overall, Oprah is the greatest.
Click over to the left to see some guys try on some face masks, or over to the right to hear them discuss public urination.